Right. Right, I'm going to pass over to Chloe. Chloe is very kindly. I twisted her arm, tripped her up, lassoed her, and managed to get her to come and MC for this event. I'm going to pass it over to Chloe. There you go. Thank you very much. Chloe Richardson. Thank you.
Truth be told, I needed no convincing. But hello, everybody, and welcome to the first panel of the day. So it's all about the evolution of Eventec. And as Stuart so kindly said, my name is Chloe. I am Chloe Richardson, and I am VP Senior Corporate Relations with Explori. I'm really thrilled to be moderating this session with three formidable Eventec brains today. So we have 20 minutes of questions from me to them. And then once that's done, we have our dedicated 10-minute Q&A. So if you do have any questions throughout, please do note them down. And then at the end, I'll ask to throw to the audience so you can get involved. If you don't have a question but you have a comment, please still get involved. We would love to hear from you. As Stuart said earlier, this is all about engagement. So we want to make sure you're as engaged as possible and getting really involved with the conversation. So what are we talking about now? Right. Eventec has evolved at an incredible rate over the last 2 years, and in the wake of a global pandemic, an accelerated digital transformation has, of course, created an abundance of event tech that's available at our fingertips. Adoption was rife across the board, but looking back, was it sometimes just tech for tech's sake? Where is the event industry falling short, and what does the post-pandemic world mean for the future of event tech? So we do have a formidable trio with us today to help us explore those questions. First of all, we're joined by Adam Parry. Very brave for Stuart to put two people from Sheffield onto the stage at one time, but Yorkshire will be extremely proud of us, Adam. Now, for those of you that don't know Adam, he is the co-founder and editor of the event industry's global online magazine, Event Industry News. As an avid tech evangelist, Adam coupled his 10 years' experience in the event industry with his passion for the latest tech trends to co-create Eventec Live London and Eventec Live Las Vegas, the industry's two shows dedicated to event tech. So Adam is also the co-organizer of both the Event Technology and the Sustainable Event Awards. A random fact about Adam, he is a veteran attendee to the La Tomatina and has been 8 times. I have my own questions about that, so we'll discuss later. And we're also joined by the lovely Sophie Ahmed. So joining the event party in the late 90s, Sophie started out as a sales manager for Reed. Fast forward a decade, and from launching events to becoming group event manager, she found herself at the head of Informa Training Division in 2008. What followed has been a really exciting career. I know Sophie will be really embarrassed right now, not looking at me. But some really great stuff. She's launched events in Shanghai. She sat on the Learning and Development Councils and led the delegate experience for both Cannes Lions and Money 2020, which are two events very close to my heart. Sophie then dived even further into the world of event tech when the pandemic led her to creating the Virtual Events Institute. An event tech consultant with a passion for all things technology, I'm looking forward to picking more of Sophie's brains today. And last but by no means least, we're also joined by Arnold Simha. Did I say that right? Okay, good. So Arnold is the CTO and co-founder at VII, and Arnold started developing at 16, and ahead of VII was working with companies including eToro, Microsoft, and much more. So having known Stas for almost 2 decades, which is longer than he's known his wife, Arnold is looking forward to this exciting journey with the rest of the VII team. So there we go, a really great panel. Let's get right to it. My first question is, and this is, first of all, we're going to look at the past, because I think it's really important that we contextualize where we're at. Sophie, what changes have you seen in event tech over the last 2 years?
Well, many. I think the last 2 years has obviously accelerated event tech, and lots of things that are happening now perhaps should have been happening pre-pandemic. I think a mindset has changed as well, and it's not an and/or. I think people realise that it's the digital overlay, the digital components here to stay. I think loads of different things around community, around improving the UX, which I think was much needed, and making it more seamless, and also around AI, so matching both content and also for networking. And all of that, I think, has created new inventory and new revenue streams for organisers, and I think people are realising it's not a competition, it's actually good to have both, and it can create more revenue streams and also be able to access a wider target addressable market, and also provide greater analytics, which you can translate then into event design, or also upsell pieces for customers, and all of that. But I think, what's happened has been incredible. It's like 20 years and 2 years, and I think it's a really exciting time right now for the event industry overall.
Sure, let's put a pin in that, because we're going to come back to the future of the event tech industry. But Adam, moving to you. So obviously community, user interface, revenue generation. Coming from really the hub of Eventec, what have you seen happen over the last 2 years?
The last 2 years, I saw the rule book ripped up. What we had done predominantly as an industry couldn't happen. So we were given mostly free rein to go out there and explore what technology and what role that could play in delivering our events. And there was lots of different ways that people produced that. Some went with 3D environments, some went with more the 2D matchmaking style, some went with Zoom. And I think that was all apparent from the ways that people did things. From a tech perspective, we saw a huge amount of investment in our sector. I think we need to remember that event technology companies are a part of our sector. So we saw a huge amount of investment into technology, hopefully with seeing the benefits on the organizational side of things. And I'm going to stop there, because if I go too far, we'll come on into the future. So.
All right, thank you. And so Arnold, over to you, because you were saying, and actually a conversation we just had before we came on stage, Arnold was saying how he feels like he's getting older every day because people coming into the tech industry are so young and so quick and so agile. So how have you seen it change over the last 24 months? Because you've got great experience, haven't you? So you must have some really good stories.
So I agree with Adam and Sophie about everything that they said. And I think the technology, especially in the event industry, progressed in 2 years, more than 10 years, I think. It's just very fast progression, very quickly, and we really need to adapt. And as we talked before, as a CTO, I just see how many things we want to do and we already did. It's just never endless list. And it will keep progressing, especially with the all new Metaverse currently that is happening around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So that being said then, and let's kind of shift to the present now, because I think we've contextualized, we were all here the last 2 years, we've all experienced what happened, but are there still gaps in the way that the event industry is using tech, Arnold? What do you think?
I think there are some gaps. I think there's a lot of gaps because currently we have so many different solutions, so many different great platforms that provide, as Adam said, many different ways of making the events. But not everyone knows and understands what they need to do in the event. Technology, at the end, is a technology. It can provide you a value, but if you don't know how to use this value, if you're selecting the wrong solution for you, I think you won't be able to create a great event, even if you will have a great technology.
Okay. And do you think, just a follow-up question from that, whose fault is it that we maybe don't have that understanding or that knowledge?
I don't think it's anyone's fault, because COVID just accelerated everything so quick, so everyone needs to adapt. For everything new, it takes time to adapt to it. I think we're at the point that people currently understand how virtual events are going to happen, how they mix between hybrid and virtual events. So I think we reached a good point that now people understand how to do a good virtual events, at my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Sophie, over to you. Obviously, again, you mentioned some of the great things that have come out of the last 2 years, but where are we still lacking? Because I think everyone in this room probably would agree at some point we feel like maybe we're not using it to its full capability. Yeah. Do you have any advice?
I think to that point, because it's happened so quickly, there's been the lack maybe of some educational around it. So I think event organisers, event planners don't always completely understand what exactly is there to offer. And sometimes I think people choose the technology and then try and get their event to fit it, but really it should be the other way around. So what's your event strategy? What are you trying to achieve from it? What do your customers and exhibitors and audience want from it? And then use your event tech partner as a strategic partner to actually work with you on it and also help with your event design. And I think also it goes one step further. There's an educational piece, I think, for the sponsors and attendees as well, because it's new for a lot of sectors. All of this has happened so quickly. They don't even quite know the audience or the sponsors how to get the most out of it either. So I think it will happen, but it's happened so quickly that everyone's still trying to learn how to get the best out of it.
Absolutely. So it's all about defining those pre-implementation strategy kind of objectives so that you can deliver. Yeah. Okay, great. And Adam, what about you? You must have seen loads of things we're missing.
I think the thing that we're missing at the moment is the time and the talent. The whole entire industry was pretty much decimated. We had a huge pool of talented people leave the industry for whatever reason. And as we're trying to build back, anybody that's left is holding both reins. They're both holding the live and the digital reins, so they're under pressure to do probably twice as much. And in some cases, not even their role prior to the pandemic. It's been given to them to manage through while companies rebuild their staff and their workforces And then to add to that, you know, so the supply chain is also has been affected by that. So from a production perspective, from now, I was just speaking to Rory from Event Video, who his team is now flying all around the world, where before they were, prior to that, they were just based in an office doing virtual events. So the talent and the people to manage the technology properly in the right roles, understanding things like the technology stack, the production, the direction that business is going in. I think that's one of the things that's missing at the moment. And some of that's going to take time to recover just over time because it takes time to bring people in. But it's also going to take some time from an organisation to be able to look at that from a strategic point of view and go, what gaps in terms of talent do we need to fill to build into our business so that we can really do technology well for our events or for our customers.
When we talk about talent, we always seem to say, why can't we attract more tech talent to our industry? What are other industries doing that we're not doing that's bringing those tech talents in? So to kind of further that point there, Adam, I wonder, is there anything else that we could learn from other industries in how they're using tech that we can then kind of copy and paste into what we should be doing for events?
Absolutely. Most other industries approach it as an industry and a technology company's partnership. So if you look at like Microsoft or Nvidia or some of the other big technology companies, they tend to partner with industry to create initiatives that attracts that talent into them. Yes, ultimately there's a goal of more people using Microsoft or AWS servers or whatever it is, but without that partnership, you're kind of going at two different directions anyway. So I think that's something as an industry, collectively, it would be good to see more of the technology companies partnering with organisers and organisations in order to kind of go, right, this is the direction we're going in, and it's a partnership to bring that talent in, or to develop that talent from within.
Okay, great. And Adam mentioned Microsoft, which is a perfect way to hand the baton over to you, Arnold. So what did you learn in your past experience that you think you could really bring to the event world? Are there any tips that you've got or any other industries you think perhaps we could really learn from?
So event industry, for me, it was a new industry. 2 years ago, I just started with the stats, and it's a really different industry from other industries that I work with, like Microsoft companies. And I think what Adam said is really important. In the event industry especially, the people part is a very, very crucial and important part. It's not even technology, not only developers, but all the communication of the people, working with different partners, working with event organizers. I think this is what's very powerful in this specific industry. This is what I see also as a tech geek, that I see that a lot of communication, a lot of networking which is happening, which allows to develop the technology for, just in our case, in our product, for example, we hear what our client's saying and we develop the technology around it and not otherwise just develop something. And like in different companies, like when I worked for other enterprise companies, it's mostly come from product managers that what they think it should be done. In the event industry case, I think it's very important to hear what clients think and what event organizers who professionals think what should be done and then develop this.
Okay, so again, about listening to your audience.
Exactly, yeah.
And then changing and adjusting accordingly. Okay, and it's interesting because we do have these conversations about tech a lot, and it often comes down to, actually, it's not really about the tech, it's about both the people and the process, like you mentioned, Sophie, having that strategic line.
If I could just add on to what Arnold says, yes, it's about listening to customers and listening to industry and getting feedback on the way that things are developed, but it's also the other way around, because I think one of the things that's been hardest most is not understanding the process of how technology is developed, how it's deployed, what an integration means, which can mean many different things to many different companies. And if we develop that talent and that understanding of what those things mean and how those things work, then when a company like VI turns around and says, well, we can't do that because of this, it's not just pushback, it's actually understood as the limitations, the expectations of the company as well.
There is a bit of a disconnect, isn't there, because it's happened so quickly. Yeah. There is a disconnect between event tech and event organisers, but to your point, Adam, we're all in the same industry. And I think that it's overwhelming because everything's happened so much. People are trying to do virtual, physical, hybrid, everyone's burnt out, and all of those issues as well. But I think also if we look to things like Netflix or Spotify and we use language like that people understand from other parts of their life. So I always think it's like the Netflixization of event content right now. And I think how we can extend the life of the content and using AI to match it, just like Netflix would say, you've watched that box set, you could watch this box set. Or Spotify, you know, you like a song, you share it, you socially amplify it, don't you? And then you subscribe monthly, so you get this lovely annual recurring revenue in the subscription model, which I know event organisers are trying to, you know, get towards in the community as well and behind the paywall. So I think there's loads of things we can learn from that actually make it seem perhaps less daunting because it's part of our everyday life. We're all using Spotify or Netflix or... So I think there's many things we can sort of translate and lift and shift over into events.
I want to actually jump on the point you made there about subscriptions. I think that's quite an interesting point. I wonder, can you give us an example of how people are potentially looking at doing this and maybe your own opinion on what you think that needs to take to grow?
Well, Cannes Lions, of course, you know, I used to work on Cannes Lions. They've recently launched the Lions Live and the Lions, you know, membership subscription. So I think there's a couple of ways you can, you know, extend it on your platform and keep it live, you know, 365. And that could either just be with the same UX, seamless, keep people engaged, and then, you know, gate it but provide it for free. Or you could gate it, provide it for free, and then you could tier it. So just like Netflix or Amazon or whatever, you know, you can have an upgrade tiers. So then you start to monetize it that way and you push it behind the paywall, have different content or different networking functionalities when it is behind the paywall. But you could start it off really gradually and just keep it alive. Don't make it too complicated for both the event organizer or, you know, the audience and the community. But that way you can slowly start to create more, you know, customer touch points throughout the year, push notifications, get closer to your customers and all of that. And I think technology will enable all of that. And I think that once people realize it's not that difficult, it's not that daunting, I think that's when people can really start to create these 365 communities, you know, that everyone's striving for.
Yeah, absolutely. And the word is community, isn't it? And I think that's a word that we've used a lot over the last 2 years. So let's talk a little bit more about best practice, because Adam mentioned a really good point there about, do we have the talent? But who should really own Eventec? So if you've got an exhibition organizer, where does that sit? Who should look after it? Should you have a CTO who looks after Eventec, or is it the event manager or the event director? Arnold, what do you think? You're a CTO, so surely you've probably got a bit of a biased opinion here, but who should really be responsible for the Eventec of an organization?
I think it's a combination of teams. At the end, it's technology. You need someone who understands the technology in order to build this technology. But it's also working with the people who've come also from industry, like organizers. Even without every company, big company, you have someone who organizing event, who managing the events, who understand how events work, and it should be a teamwork. Basically, I don't think it should be only one ownership. It should be an ownership of different areas of different expertise to build a good product and to create a good virtual event.
And if we go back to the title, which is obviously tech for tech's sake, Adam, I think a huge part of tech is, of course, data. And I think that might be something that's going to be talked about later on. But I just want to quickly jump on that. Do you think some organisers have been using tech because data is such a valuable commodity and that's really been the end goal? Or do you think there's a bigger picture?
I think the allure of the data has been a reason why certain companies or individuals have invested in technology, because they see the potential to glean a lot more information about their attendees and users. But the percentage of those that have actually made that actionable or done something with it, I think, is probably quite low. It's very attractive to think that we're going to get to see lots of different things about different people. But if that data is siloed and it's not being able to be brought together in the right way, or again, you don't have people within your organization who are willing to engage with people who can make use of that data, it's pointless in terms of collecting. So that's when it becomes tech for tech's sake, or the pressure of using Q&A, or we could have used a Q&A system today and everybody on the phone trying to ask questions where, you know, a mic's perfectly acceptable in this environment. So yes, I think there's initiatives that are going to make that a lot easier for us as an industry. An organisation which is, you know, it's not just because Chloe sat here attached to Explori, which is a company called VSEF. This is an agreement between technology companies and organisers in the way that data is formatted, so it makes that use of data much, much easier. Those are really interesting initiatives going forward because it will make that data more usable. But yeah, in essence, I think there's a lot of tech that's been used because they think they're going to get something out of it that they actually don't.
Yeah, no, of course. Okay, so you said looking forward, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the future. Sophie, you were nodding quite a lot there to what Adam was saying about data and about kind of bringing not having these data silos and really integrating, which I think was the key word. Where is Eventec going, and what do you think that we as an industry really need to be ready for?
I mean, I think it's such a broad term, isn't it? I mean, it could mean a virtual event platform. It could mean tech at a physical event that enhances your experience as well. You know, I love the heat maps in an exhibition hall that tell you where people are, and obviously that's great then for rebooking your exhibitors, because you can go, there were more people here, you need to spend more, things like that. But I think ultimately, you know, it has to keep iterating, and it has to keep iterating in line with what the industry needs and what the customers need and what the customers need. I think AI is going to be a big part, I think more than it has been, and because through that, it really creates these personalized experiences. So you can really personalize the user journey, and you can really make it exactly what certain micro-communities want. And I think that will really help, and it will also help event organisers through these analytics we're talking around, because they can pull it from the platform and say, we know where people went, what sessions they went to, or who they met, and so on. So all of that will inform future Eventec. So I think it will keep iterating. I think AI is a big part of it. Of course, everyone's talking around the Metaverse, so, you know, we'll see. But I quite like this whole Netflix, looking to Netflix and Spotify as well. I think there's something to be said for that. And I really love, on the note of what Adam mentioned, because I was going to mention, I really love what VSEF are doing, trying to standardise data. I think that's so important. So it just creates some sanity, and everyone's got a benchmark of what should be happening.
Yeah.
It lets work for developers to develop everything, so always something new.
So it's a win-win.
It's
interesting what you mentioned about AI, because I think AI is being used in so many other industries, and I'm really excited to see what AI and machine learning does for personalisation at scale within the events world. It's going to be super interesting. And Arnold, over to you then. What does the future hold for Eventec?
I think the Metaverse is currently the big word everybody talking about, but still not everybody understands what is Metaverse. Some think it's glasses or walking avatars. We still don't know exactly what it is. And I think the future at the end will be the Metaverse, but not what currently people. I think it will take like a year or two to understand exactly what's going to be. I think it's going to be like we're doing in Paris, England, and different other countries, where you can have events in different areas around the world, around the globe. You can explore different places and meet people virtually in the whole around the world. I think this is the direction we're going, of course, in the mix of AI and machine learning, because currently this is the part of the technology that everybody's starting to use to create this personalized experience. But I think with the technology and with all the, let's say, graphical experience that you sit at home and be in England, it can just enhance all the event industry, in my opinion.
So again, going back to that idea of community and really enhancing and really harnessing that to leverage the community.
I think one-time event, it's not going to, it still will happen, but I think the communities will take much bigger role. So we'll have events, platforms open for whole year, and during the year, they will have 2 events, 3 events, 10 events, but they will build community all over their own and build a bigger community, a bigger network. And once you have this networking community, you can adjust the AI and machine learning, because if you will have 1,000 attendees, AI won't tell you anything. But if you will have 100 attendees during the year, you can learn from it. You can learn from analytics. You can learn from all the data that you will achieve.
Great stuff. And then finally, Adam, same question to you. I know you've got a lot of exciting events coming up this year. You're launching an event over in Vegas, so you really have your finger on the pulse in terms of what's coming up next. So what do you expect?
I'm not going to predict anything around technology. I'm not going to say facial recognition is right around the corner. We've been speaking about facial recognition for a decade. The Metaverse has been something that's been around for longer than the last 12 months. And it wasn't that long ago that event apps were hailed as the revolutionary thing within our sector. We are an industry that will adapt and adopt technology to suit our purposes. I think what I'm looking at from an industry perspective is how event technology can support us as an industry to help communicate, whether that's with internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, customers, prospects, the wider world on important topics like sustainability. The way that technology will impact our event, impact our industry, will support us in our communication efforts and the way that the world communicates. That's something I'm absolutely positive about. At the moment, it's a difficult transition time because there's lots of things that are both happening on a global scale and an industry scale. That means we're probably in for a really tough 12 months of reevaluating and rebuilding and restructuring. But as a part of our sector, I think technology has a great amount of benefits to us as an industry to make us really strong from anything like the pandemic happening in the future.
Great stuff. So AI, communication, integration, UX, revenue generation, restructuring. Lots of big words there. Let's see if we're right. Now the perfect opportunity to open up to the floor. So does anybody have a question for any of our panelists? Martin, yes, of course. Over to you, sir. I'm glad you're here to throw in a question. Yes.
I'm literally paid to do this. It's quite fun. I just wanted to maybe pick up on what Sophie mentioned. I know we're talking maybe a little bit more holistically, but we say that AI is the future and so on. I was hoping someone might be able to add a bit of context to what we mean by that. When we're talking about AI in the context of what we do, what are we actually talking about? Because, you know, I don't like my wife using my Netflix account because otherwise I end up with call a midwife between all my crime dramas, which is really irritating. And I like, you know, I'm one of those people I like to channel hop. I want to see where Michael Portillo's off to in his pastel jacket next, or discover something by chance. I don't want to be funneled down a rabbit hole based on my current browsing history, so to speak. That sounds terrible, but you know what I mean. So I was just hoping we might be able to add some context to what we mean about AI in this event world of ours.
Hi, Shlomo. Please wait. You'll be soon joined to Q&A.
Ooh. I think Stas wanted to jump in there. Adam, did I see you raise your hand?
I'm sorry. I was brought to live. We are on the backstage. We have so many attendees asking questions. We dropped in the middle of sentence, you know, sync times between virtual and in person, taking some lags, but the overall experience is so great on the platform. We have so many questions. The panel is so amazing. In a very short word, I want to thank Adam and Sophie. I never met them yet in person. They both become my...
Oh, they become what? Suspense.
Yeah, Adam is basically discovered via events. The first time we participated on an award show, it was at Eventec Live, and it was the first time I spoke ever publicly. So Adam, thanks for the opportunities you produce for the Eventec CEOs and founders. You're doing such a great job, and the community you're building, the founders community, is so amazing. I've met so many people virtually there that are part of now, I'm my real life friends now. So I'm so excited about this. And I'll let you finish the previous question and then
great.
The virtual question, so I'll let you to finish the in-person question first, okay?
Perfect, thanks. So AI, what does it mean?
I think there's two elements to it. I think there's AI that will allow us to better personalize the experience, and rather than deliver the same experience for everybody that comes into an event, really understand why that person's there, although we can do that without AI. I think actually, and the gentleman in the room today, it's about access to that information past the event. An event like Eventec Live has 100 sessions, which is probably plus 100 hours of content. And no matter how great we are at writing a paragraph about that piece on demand and a great title, it doesn't really give the ability to index that and find the content that's relevant to that person. And that could be a month, 6 months, or 12 months later. AI can power that in order to be able to understand what that content's about in context and deliver it to you so that you get what you want out of that event way after the event. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful reasons I've seen to kind of invest or look into AI at the moment.
Great stuff. Thanks, Adam. Great question, Martin. So, Stas, I know you've got some virtual questions. Yes, I can see your hand is up. So over to you, please.
Can you please bring Shlomo in, and he will share his question. We have Shlomo from the audience. Shlomo Kalichman.
Hey guys, nice to be here. So my question is, do you think VR and AR technologies will dominate the future of virtual events and hybrid events?
Okay, good question. Who wants to jump on this? VR and AR, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I'll try to answer this question. I think maybe, but it will take at least 5 years. I think currently the technology is not yet there. If you try to put Oculus and be there for 10 minutes, I think you know the feeling. It's still hard. I think once we reach the point when you put the regular glasses, it will be a 3D world. Maybe then we'll start to adapt more and technology will adapt itself. But currently, I think it's only a gimmick. It will take at least 5 years, in my opinion, to be a solid technology to use.
I agree. I think it takes consumer adoption of those types of technologies in order for it to make sense, because at the moment, even just hiring VR headsets for the attendees here would be quite a large investment. And that's just the hardware, that's not the development of that experience as well. But as Apple and other manufacturers are available, kind of develop that technology and start selling it to us, then yeah, it becomes much more achievable.
Great question.
Thank you
so
very much.
Thank you for joining us. And Stas, I think we've probably got time for one more question from our virtual audience, if that's all right. Go ahead.
Yes. We're still bringing them online. It will take us a couple of seconds. So before that, I'll also have a question for the team here. So if you were to name one trend, one future trend in the technology, what do you expect it to be? I know it's hard to guess because in the last 2 years, we had a leap of about 10 years in technology advancement. But what do you think will be the one thing that will be the future thing that everybody will speak, like Metaverse become a trend buzzword overnight when Zuckerberg announced it? What is the next big trend, and will it be practical?
Who wants to go first? Everyone looked at Sophie then.
It's a big question, because I think it depends on what type of event it was, the legacy of the event, what sort of sector is it in. Some people will respond differently to things. I mean, I still think AI, and to Martin, your question, I think what Adam was saying, after the event, you can keep your event alive and you can push certain things to certain cohorts or even to new customers to bring them in under your umbrella, or to, wider areas, more global areas, and all of that. And that insight is going to allow the event organizer to design an event that keeps iterating, that matches the needs of their audience. And that's what I think is huge, that before we used to rely on people doing a feedback form or how many people were in the room and all of that. But now you get a snapshot pretty much of everything that's happening, and you can use those behaviors, those patterns to judge how to, charge more, structure it differently, get different speakers in and so on.
I can tell you one trend I'd like to see, and that's one click.
Thank you. Sorry, Adam.
delay.
That's one-click registration. I can go and shop and in one click check out, buy a product, it gets shipped to me, delivered to me. They don't need to know 3,000 things about me. And I'm in that situation at the moment. We have long registration forms. It's something me and my team are trying to work on, is like really condensing that down. I want to be able to register for an event, and everything else that you want to find out about me, do it through the platform, the event app, or other things. I think that's something that would help us get a lot more adoption in events.
Yeah, good point. And Stas, did you have another question?
Yes, thank you. So many great answers, thank you. I'll share mine because I'm currently joining you virtually. So I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for a robot that, I can put in a camera in the hotel now and go and meet you virtually via navigating with a robot. There is some pilots of great companies that are doing that already, but it should become practical anytime soon in the near future. That's one of my expectations, to be able to travel in person virtually in the physical locations. And second of all, I'm really betting on the AR experience, not the VR, but the AR. I think, like, if you are sitting now in the audience and you put yourself in AR glasses, and you can, for reference one, get a real-time translation or get personalization through AR while watching the audience. And let's say you are watching now Adam speak, and you'll get his bio. You'll see where he was recently posting on social media, like what public, of course, we want to keep privacy. But I think the future is amazing. We're on the right road, and it's going to be brilliant. We have another guest, last question, and then we'll move to the next panel. We have Nestle here. Nestle, can you say hi and ask your question?
Hi everyone. My question is, should we expect more technological breakthroughs in 2022 and 2023? And can you make one prediction?
Okay.
Thank you, Nestle. Thank you.
Arnold.
It's going to be a crazy year. I think 2022 and 2023 is going to be crazy in the technology aspect, and I think we will progress more and more towards 3D and mixing with AI and machine learning. I think this is the progression that I think is going to be in these 2 years.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you thank you, Nestle. I hope it answers your question. I'll not take longer of your time. I'll mute myself and turn my camera off, but I'm looking to you guys, and we are looking forward to the online people start asking about the next panel. I know we have a little bit of a delay because the topic was so interesting, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Stas. I didn't know where you were going when you said cameras in hotel rooms, but I'm glad that you meant the experience. Thank you so much to our brilliant panel, and hope you all enjoyed.